What's up, team? It's Joe Mill back at you yet again. Holiday season, and we about to get together your prime rib out here. We're going to brave the elements, believe it or not. It is a wet and rainy day out here in Arizona, but don't worry about it. I got you covered. Hold tight, and before I get out of here, got to show you my boy. Let's get to the work. All right, team, it's the night before. We're about to get a little prep going on this rib roast here, or our prime rib. So a couple things that you're going to need for today's cook, or should I say for the prep on getting this baby ready. Get you your large cutting board out. You want to have your boning knife or your sharp kitchen knife, as well as obviously we're going to need a prime rib, or you can always go with a choice of rib roast, whether you go bone in, bone out, whatever you like. Make sure you got your disposable food handling gloves, along with the paper towel to kind of dry this thing off if it's got any moisture on it, along with your aluminum pan. That's what we're going to be actually letting it sit in overnight. This can be something that you actually do the day of your cook. The longer you let it kind of sit, the more that you might actually get some of that rub to penetrate a little bit deeper into this thick cut of meat. I like to do it overnight, do it the night before in this case. But with that said, if you want to get up and then do it maybe 3-6 hours before and then actually go right on the cooker, you'll be just fine. Other than that, we're going to be actually giving a shout out today to old Matt Pittman, and today we're going to be using the Holy Cow Beef Rub, along with a mix of the Meat Church garlic herb, a little bit of black coarse pepper, and a little bit of olive oil. And then if you do like this olive oil sprayer, that's something that you can also find in the description, as well as any other products that I actually use. So we're going to dive right in. Nothing too crazy. I'm going to get my handling glove on my left hand. I'm right-handed. I like to cut with my right, do everything else. So it just allows me to kind of work a little bit easier. Really, the only thing that I want to do is we kind of look at this thing. Got some decent marbling in here. Basically, this is nothing but a ribeye. If we were to slice off a bunch of these, we would have a bunch of ribeye steaks. But we got the actual roast. I like to take off a little bit of this top layer of fat, just so I can actually get to my meat. Again, it's a thick cut of meat, so at the end of the day, a lot of times it's tough to get that seasoning all the way through. So I want to get this first layer of fat off the top, expose me some more meat. It's going to help me get a nice crust all the way around, and then that way I can at least get my seasoning penetrating directly on the meat. With that said, some people love to leave this on. It's totally a personal preference thing. I think I've told you a million times over, for me, a lot of times I won't take too much excess fat, and then I also like bark. So at the end of the day, if it's a thing where I can get more bark off of it, I probably will. But take your time. You don't want to gouge into this meat. I mean, at this point, you've paid a lot of money for it. You don't need to take off a whole lot. I'm just going to be more or less just kind of shaving a little bit off the top. I'll kind of get some pinches in. Sometimes you can almost get some big blocks pulled up like that. And then from there, you can just slip up under there with your knife and take it right off in a nice long stroke and get off as much as you can. Again, this is something that's optional. However, I think it does help if you like the bark, or if you do want, at least for what it's worth, try to get you a decent amount of flavor all the way throughout. Otherwise, if I just go ahead and I season this thing up and let it sit, basically I got all my rub sitting on this whole fat layer. So really won't too much happen. And then as it starts to actually cook, this fat's going to render out, and all my rub is going to go right with it. So we're going to clean this baby up a little bit. Just like so. Nice and easy. We don't need to take off too much. We're just going to let it kind of just give it to us. Don't fight it. And once I get me a nice little solid base where I can pretty much see my meat throughout, that'll be good for me. And we're going to be transferring it right over into our aluminum disposable pan. There, I'll throw a little bit of olive oil on it, and we'll start in on seasoning it. We'll wrap it up, and then like I said, this is going to sit overnight and be ready for our cook tomorrow. So all I'll have to do is take it out, let it start coming up to temperature for an hour or so, get my pit up to blaze, and jump right in. You know, I can also see there's a little bit of silver skin right over here on the top of that. I'm going to rotate it forward so maybe you can actually see. You see this layer of silver skin? I'm going to get rid of that. So we're going to go under it a little bit so I can get to some of that. We lift it, much like we do on the ribs, pull it away, and at the end of the day, I mean, maybe you might get a shaving of a little bit of meat, but maybe it shouldn't be too much. I don't want to go too deep into it. Just want to get it exposed. There we go. Now we got that silver skin off. Okay? We like that fat. That's that good fat that'll kind of go ahead and help us marinate the rest of it. It'll render off real nice. Now, if we wanted, we could definitely use this fat. I could obviously use this in some sausage, or I could add this to some of my brisket meat and things like that and get some good fat in there, a little bit of steak. I'm not going to worry about it too much today. I got quite a bit of brisket scraps. We're going to get rid of that. I'm going to take one of our paper towels. Let's go ahead and just dry off our exterior and get rid of any moisture that we got on there. As we get ready to apply our rub, and then we're going to transfer right into our aluminum pan. Let's get all the sides. Work it all. A little scraggly. Came right off when I pulled it. I went with the bone ends today. I'm going to try those out. Sometimes I've done boneless. I've done the standing rib roast where they cut the bones off and then retie them back on. Today we're going to go with the actual just bone in all the way through. For those that's keeping score, this was a little over 7 pounds of a prime rib. So decent size. Decent size. But with that said, with them bones in there, you know some of that you're going to automatically lose. So we got this baby now in the pan. Let's start off with some of the basics. Nice and easy. We're going to hit it with a little bit of this olive oil. FYI, I like this spritzer too. I don't like vegetables. If you're just trying to get a little bit of olive oil in your pan, this isn't the one that I like to use to actually spritz my meat on the grill, because it doesn't really come out in a spritz. It's more of a direct spray. But for situations of doing something like this, works well. We're going to take a little bit of that olive oil, and I'm just going to wipe it down one time all over. And get it on each side, get a little bit on the back. This is going to help my rub apply. Stick on there real good. And just give it a little first layer of defense once it finally do get out there on that smoker. Make the sheen up real nice, give us a good color. Get some good looking marbling in this thing. Okay, more than enough. So first things first, going for this bark. There's a piece I want to get rid of. Going for this bark, I want to go ahead and start with pepper first. I'm just going to put a nice layer. Don't get me wrong, there is pepper in that holy cow meat church rub. It's definitely got a mean, nice flavor. But I want to get just a little bit on there to start, just to kind of help with my brush, or with my crust. We're just gonna go with a decent little layer, nothing too crazy. I say you got plenty more going on. But this is one of them tricks that they use to come out with a better overall crust. And a lot of times people do this on their brisket too. Don't worry, I'm gonna bring you in so you can check it out. Alright, that's more than enough. There we go. You can see it without that top on there now. Got that meat exposed. And all we're gonna do is just give it a little bit of love from there. Now that we got a little bit of pepper all over, I want to come with this holy cow. This rub, give it a little shake. This is new. Has a good looking color and a great flavor. A little bit of kick, nice and peppery. It's got some good salt in there. I think it should come out well. This is one that I haven't got to try yet, so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, with Matt Pittman, how can it really come out wrong? If you haven't checked him out, make sure you do. And if you made it here, I'm sure you've seen him. And then remember, this is a big piece of meat, so like a brisket, don't be afraid to put a little seasoning on it. It might look like a lot, but keep in mind that this is just the top area. Once you start slicing into this, you're gonna have a bunch of long slices this way. Really, all you're gonna have is seasoning around your crust and whatever is able to penetrate into the middle. So don't be afraid to hit it with some seasoning. As long as everything you're done throwing on there is all salt, you'll be fine. In this case, your boy got you covered. Alright, I want to bring you in. Last thing that I went ahead and did was I added on some of the this meat church garlic and herb seasoning all over it. So pretty much we started off, we got rid of that top layer of fat, silver skin to expose a little bit more of this meat. Other than that, cut off any stragglers or anything like that that you saw. Light layer of, dried it off with the paper towel, threw a light layer of olive oil on it. From there I started with the black pepper. Came over the top with the Holy Cow Meat Church Barbecue Rub. And then finished it off with the Meat Church Garlic and Herb. Alright. Wrap this baby up with some saran wrap or some heavy duty aluminum foil. Toss it in the fridge. Tomorrow we'll get it out early. We'll let it get up to room temp. And then we'll get the pit going. And we're going to smoke it. Alright team, we out here at the pit. Like I said, these going to be quick shots because we are out here in the rain. Quickly losing some daylight, but I'm going to make sure we get some good looks here. Pretty much just wanted to give you an idea of where we at. After sitting yesterday, good old smoke. After yesterday, taking the time to get this thing all seasoned up and ready. This has been sitting out for about a good hour and a half or so. It's prime rib, so it's ready to rock. This is what I'm about to do, and I'll let you see what it looks like there at the end. One, I like cooking here at my bottom grate. It just feels like, it seems like it gets the good smoke level and just seems to do the best spot. You know, it breathes in a good spot by the chimney and everything, so that's where I like to cook. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep this pan. Part of the reason I like this pan because it's still got a little bit of seasoning in there from when I took the time of seasoning and putting it in here to actually rest overnight in the refrigerator. We're gonna be taking that pan, I'm gonna be putting it under the grate and sitting it right on top of my baffles. That way I can actually catch that as a drip pan to actually catch a lot of my juice on the back end. Either I'll show you how we do a little bit of au jus or some gravy for you as well. And then I want this to be directly on the rack. I am going to be probing this one. For me, I like my prime rib a lot more done than probably most people. Beautiful thing always cooking your own is you can do it the way you want to do it. So for me, I'm probably going to let this thing go to about 145, which I know is a cardinal sin. From there, I'll probably take it out, get a little reverse sear action on all sides. I'm like a well done meat eater, maybe a little bit of medium well, so that's what I'm going for. I know the majority of people that do prime rib was usually going to go for more of a medium to medium rare, whatever have you. For years, I never even ate prime rib because of the fact it was never done enough for me. But now that it's yours, you can do it the way you want. That's what we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna take you out here in a second and I'll show you exactly what it's gonna look like. We'll throw a probe in there so I know exactly where it's at, and all we're gonna do is keep some clean smoke on here. And there we go. Give you an idea. That's basically my setup. So I wanted to bring you back in here as I'm getting nice and good and fast and wet. Keep in mind, as I'm about to throw this probe in, I got the bone-in version. Make sure that you're not probing the actual bone. I'm gonna try to go for pretty much dead smack in the middle. And you know what I think, 'cause it looks like it might be touching a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my top grate just so I'm not touching on it at all. Actually, it looks like it'll be fine. I don't want to make it ugly, but that's pretty where we at. Right in the middle, dead center with that probe. Make sure you're not touching any bones at the bottom. Let's get a cook in. All right, so we back. It's about an hour and a half. I just wanted to bring you in real quick. Like I said, it's a wet and rainy day, been non-stop. I don't even need to tell you, but this Lone Star been holding up like a champ. So small adjustments for the people that's trying to, learn more about how they're gonna dial their Lone Star in or dial in their offset smoker. Obviously, with it being a rainy day, my temps were a little bit lower. Keep an idea that you want to try to get a bigger and a better overall cold bed. So, start off with a nice solid, full amount of charcoal or whatever have you. And then as far as my wood, like I said, I got a pretty big tall stack of wood. So with that said, I ended up taking off the top few layers, digging down in there so I can get a little bit more of the drier wood. And then from there, what I did was bring those pieces of wood in earlier in the day before I actually started cooking and everything. And I put them on my covered patio, so at least they didn't continue to get more wet. And other than that, I think if you're doing your drying technique, for me being in Arizona, the wood that I'm getting is super dry usually anyway, which is just more or less putting you some slits off to the side to kind of dry before you actually put them in to get caught. I think you'd be just fine. Other than that, I haven't really noticed not too much difference. Obviously a little bit lower temperature, and I've just been kind of keeping an eye on it, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes quicker than what I normally would do at that 45-minute mark or to an hour. Now it's more like 30 to 45 minutes. I keep an eye on it, and instead of just one slit that I was keeping off to the side to dry out, I got a couple of them to make sure that I really got something dry, and I can kind of make sure I keep a monitor on it. But other than that, that's kind of what we're doing. Like I told you before, my temps are still holding steady, so that's great. The perfect time to throw in a slit of wood, or a split of wood, excuse me, is when you actually going in here to make some looks at your meat. I haven't kind of peeked at this thing since I put it in here initially. Let me make sure I don't knock down my thermoprobe I got right there. We'll move that and adjust it out of there. And I see we're drying up a little bit. I'm not even at 100 degrees yet on internal. So I mean, at the end of the day, we got a long cook ahead of us. But once it gets going, it'll get going. The only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give it a light spritz of pretty much what I do is just a little bit on this one particularly. I don't really want to give it too much of a sweet flavor or anything like that, or change it too much. So all I'm hitting it with is a little bit of water, a little bit of olive oil in here, just giving it a little bit of moisture, and I'm gonna let it keep its bark. And what I am gonna do is give it a full rotation just so I can get the other side some love, and then also to make sure we get some even cooking. Other than that, we're gonna let it go. Like I said, when I get up to the temperatures I'm liking, that's when we'll pull it up off of here and go from there with the sear back over on the firebox. I'm gonna tell you, smooth and easy, that old Lone Star. Take care of you. We're a little over 3 hours. Preheat that log off to the side, and pretty much, well, other than coming over to get on it a little bit quicker than other than that, my temp's been holding steady. We've been rocking on at about 225. We'll go ahead and pop this baby open. My temp gauge is telling me we roughly at about 125-ish. I rotated this one time. I'll probably go ahead and rotate it again right now. And I'm about to just give it a light spritz. And again, for me, I'm just hitting it with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of water. I ain't overthinking it, man. Just giving it a little bit of moisture in there. And then you see my drip pan starting to get a little bit down there. As well, I went ahead and took that top rack off because I didn't want to be touching the top, man. I'm anal sometimes. So I just want to get that top rack out of here, but I didn't want to sit it out there in the rain. So other than that, we're about to sit it in here, keep it going for another good 10 to 15 degrees. One thing, so you always know, the Thermopro, while I absolutely love it and it does wonders, and sometimes, you know, it'll hit directly, you never know. And sometimes you might temp a meat in one place and it's one temp, and temp it somewhere else and it's another. So at the end of the day, when I'm all said and done, this is kind of just a guide. I'm going to go ahead and get to around the temp I'm looking for, which for me is going to be about 145-ish. And I'm thinking that more of when I'm getting the center of it to be 145, my edges are going to be more done. It's still going to spike in temp once it sits and everything. So for me, that's going to be good, since I want to take it a little bit further than the average person probably on their prime rib. And then also knowing that I'm going to be cooking some of that down and turning around making Philly steak sandwiches or something like that for football on the weekend. So it doesn't matter for me if it's a little bit under. But anyway, the one thing I did want to say is, regardless, I'm coming back in here with my Insta read, and I'm going to be actually taking some actual probes in a couple different places to see exactly where my temp is at. This is kind of more or less a guide, just so I know when to come out here and check on it. Other than that, I'm going to keep it with the Insta pen, and that's always going to be the most thorough, and then last minute it'll tell me the best. All right. We rolling still along. Let's check this baby out. We at about 4.5 hours. I know it's a little dark out here. You're getting a little bit of smoke in your face, but that's all right. That's part of cooking. We looking pretty good. I said I was going to reverse sear just to get a little extra color, even though my color ain't looking too bad. But you know what? I'm going to still hit it just because. I'm temping out at about 140, which is about exactly where I wanted to be in my center. I know I might have said 145 earlier, but talking to my boy, he made me feel bad, told me I was out here trying to cook some steaks. So I said I'm going to go ahead and go a little lighter, just a little bit. I know at the end of the day I'll be good. I like medium well, or something like that. Even a little bit of medium, especially since knowing I'm going to be recooking some, it don't matter to me. That's all good. So I think this is going to be all right. So we about to pull this off. And just to give you an idea, my Thermopen, or my Thermopro, it was already telling me that I was almost at 150. Came out and then tempted, I was 10 degrees lower. So now we're about to go over here and jump into this reverse sear. We're going to see if we can get this done. I've already taken off the griddle plate. So we got straight fire under there, baby. Straight fire. Now you notice I got my drip pan under there. Let's see. This baby about 7 pounds. Let's see if we can grab this without making a mess and destroying it all at the same time and get it over here to this flame. I'm gonna go ahead and start right on this side, since that's the way I got it. All I want to do, and I'm gonna go ahead and close it down because I don't want to kiss it too hard with them flames. Even though they don't look like they're kicking up too high, we might be all right. Close it down. Give me about 1 minute on each side. We'll talk through a couple things real quick, fast. Looking back over here at this drip pan, don't got too much juice in there, but it's got a little bit. Got my seasons and everything in there, so everything's looking nice and moist. Now keep in mind, once I get done giving us this quick sear on each side, the one thing that I am going to be doing is I'll be getting my pan back up out of here, and when I take it in the house, and it's going to be resting for about roughly a half an hour before I actually get into it, and then some of the juice is going to run off then too. We're going to actually have it sitting in this same pan. So I'm going to get a little bit more juice then. And then when it comes on the back end, it's time to make that au jus. I'll be adding in a little bit of liquid, a little extra beef broth, depending on how much juice you was able to get out of yours. A couple other things, and we'll be able to get that au jus together. But basically, just wanted to show you my pan. I told you I got rid of my top rack. As far as the cook, I know we talked about it at the end of the day. My rain kind of slowed down here on the very back end of the cook, but we pretty much had a wet day. As long as you keep that wood somewhat dry, make sure you dry some out along the way as you're cooking. Man, this thing is a tank. You're talking about over 1,000 pounds of steel. It's not going to hurt you. It take care of me at the end of the day, and I ain't have to do too much work on it at all. Even out here with a little bit of conditions. All right, we got one side down. This is beautiful. I like being able to get this direct sear right over here. All right, let's see if we can get a clean flip. There we go. There we go. I'm gonna bring you around on this other side. Oh yeah, it's looking good. Let's get that other side a minute. I'm not gonna worry about the bone side. I'm gonna end up just hitting the top next, and then we're gonna bring it on in and let it rest. So like I said, I stopped it at about 140, brought it over here to sear it. At the end of the day, maybe we'll get it up to about 145, something like that. And then on the back end, we're gonna turn around and let it rest. It'll kick up another 5 to 10 degrees. And then from there, slice it up and that thing should be ready. Okay, let's hit the last side. Right on top. We looking pretty. Boom. Gonna flip it right on top. I'm not gonna worry too much on the bone side. I might get a bones a little bit of love. You know what? Let's get a bones a little love today. I get a bones a little bit of love. We'll give him a minute too. At the end of the day, when I go ahead and show you how we're gonna slice this thing, we're gonna remove the bones. And for the people that's got the bones already in, we're gonna remove the bones first, and then we'll go into slicing that prime rib. And then on the back end, you also end up with some ribs to kind of play with, a little something to taste test. If you're real generous, maybe you get that to your dog, but at the end of the day, you might want to get that to your dog. You got to have somebody at the house you love a whole lot that might want to taste that. One more side, hit the back end, we're going to let it rest. During that last time out, shall we say, I went ahead and yanked my pan from up out of there so you can kind of get an idea what we're looking like. So this is the original pan that I initially, after trimming and seasoning it up, this is what I put it in last night. Let it come up to temp and sit out for a while in today. Put it up underneath, and it's got all my little bit of drippings that came out of here. And then, like I said, we're on the back end. I'll show you how we're going to throw a little bit of beef broth to this, and we'll make us a little bit of au jus and a little something extra to dip in if you got mashed potatoes, or if you just want to have a little bit of juice to pour right on your prime rib. That's about a wrap. I got the bone side in now. They've been taken care of. Look at that, babies. Oh, you gotta love that. Sitting over that beautiful looking wood. Got us a nice flame kissing up there on that meat. You know, one of these days I gotta do a cook just on this side. We're gonna go ahead and use this like a traditional grill. Now let's see. We're gonna see if we can one hand this thing up out of here without tearing it up too much. And holding on to my camera. Meanwhile, there we go. We ain't put it on the ground, so we did all right. I'll let you see what it looks like on the inside so you can really get a good peek at it with some better light. I know we out here, it's dark. We're looking at the light off my camera and everything, but we got a pretty looking sear all over this thing. So we about to let this sit for about a half hour or so, rest and recollect with all those good old-fashioned juices, and I'm gonna show you what it looks like when we slice. All right, wanted to give you a shot while we back in the crib now. So here we go. 4.5 hours, roughly about 225 the whole way. Took it up to 140, and after that, we gave it a little sear of about 1 minute directly over my coals, just to give me a little top end color. We looking beautiful, baby. I can see juice want to squirt out, and I tell you what, if you could smell the room, you would know we're gonna be all right. It's a good holiday coming. So we're gonna go ahead and let this hang out for a minute. I'm gonna throw it in the microwave and just leave it just as you see for roughly about 30 minutes. I'll show you how we cut off these bottom bones, how we slice this rib roast down, and from there, we're gonna go ahead and enjoy it, man. Merry Christmas. All right, team. 5 hours later, and that's a wrap. Let me tell you right now, the way this thing is looking, the way that the house is smelling, I can already tell you we got a hit. Big shout out to Matt Pittman over there at Meats Church. Those seasonings are #1 stunner. And at the end of the day, this is going to come out to be a good cook. And this is definitely a rub that I'm going to have to try again on another rib roast. Maybe I'll try one boneless or something like that. If you haven't yet, take a second. Make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe down there in that bottom right corner. That way you can keep up with the latest cooks and also support the channel. Other than that, we're going to dive right into how we can carve your prime rib or your holiday roast or your ribeye roast or your rib roast or all the other different ways that you've probably seen it wrote down in your supermarkets. And also make sure you stay into the very end. I got an easy tidbit that I'm gonna throw in there for you. with 3 easy ingredients, and you're gonna be able to go ahead and take some of those little bit of renderings that came off of your prime rib and turn around and make you some au jus that you can actually pour over your prime rib when you serve it or over your mashed potatoes. Hold tight. All right, we back at them. So here we go. This is what she looks like now that she done rested. I got me a little bit of renderings over here into my pan. Like I said, in a couple seconds, I'll let you know how we're gonna break this down and make some good au jus out of this. But let's get into this rib roast. So we look good. Obviously, we looking juicy. I'm seeing the cutting boards already getting wet. I'm gonna switch it around a little bit as we look to get to a good spot where I can actually get a good shot for you and not block you out too much. We're gonna cut away these bones. So pretty much I got 2 big bones right here. That's the first thing that I want to get rid of. And what I'm going to do is take my boning knife and pretty much lay it right along my bones. And I'm going to be cutting right towards it. So you can see where I'm at. And we're just going right along that seam. And I want to try to ride as tight as I can on those bones. Boom. So I can get those removed. It'll come out like a nice little plate. And then like I said, whoever you really like at the house, if you're really feeling generous, being that it's Christmas and maybe you want to hook your dog up, or maybe this is a little something that you actually enjoy for yourself before you get it done. A little piece of gristle to get through. But basically, here's where you're going to have your ribs. There we go. Get that one off of there. Those still got some good meat on it. And then from here, this is what we're going to be slicing for your prime rib. Now this back tail is pretty much all fat. Think of it like a ribeye, and you got your cap where you got all the good stuff. Now normally they'll say a good slice is probably going with, and I'm going to go ahead and just use this boning knife. I think they usually go with about a 1/2 inch. You can go a little bit tighter than that if you want. Maybe you want to start getting like more like closer to some shavings or something like that. Alright, you ready? Here go the reveal. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Good smoke on there. See if I can't bring it in so you can get a good look at it. Like I said, I take mine a little bit more done than probably the average person looking to eat prime rib. But with that said, that's not too done for me. I'm gonna keep these slices a little bit thinner because for one, I usually like it like that. And then for two, this is actually for tomorrow. But I gotta get in here and be able to show you what it's looking like. I don't know if we can focus in and get a good look at that. Like always, that Lone Star always gives us some good smoke on there. And we are cooked to perfection. Tenderoni. Let's just get us a little piece and see how we taste. Money. Just like always. Money. That's gonna be great. Once we put together that au jus, so you got you a little dipping sauce, that is gonna be money. I'm not gonna carve everything up like I normally do. Normally I always want to put everything away and be done with it. But like I said, I'm gonna leave that solid. So that'll be a little something tomorrow. Save my dog one of these and he'll get him a little Christmas present. Look him out. And we'll dive into how you're gonna easily get into this au jus. So you see here, and you'll kind of understand the madness of why I used the foil pan and kind of what we had. These are my renderings that came from that roast sitting in this pan. A little bit of it started off when we first had this pan underneath while we were cooking. Some of this is the seasoning when we were sitting there, and it's the extra rub that came off when I was actually doing the initial seasoning as it sat overnight. And then you also had that fat that rendered off, like I said, during the cook. After it sat, I probably got the majority of this juice that came off into this pan. So what we're going to do from here, 3 easy ingredients. All you're going to be adding, you can literally put this directly onto your fire pit on top if you got room for that. In my case, I could have put that directly onto my griddle or directly onto my open grate. You can put this directly on the stove. You can transfer it to a different pan, but let me tell you, what's in the bottom of this, when you're talking gravy and au jus, is literally the gold. You want to make sure you get a hold of that. So if you don't got any holes in your pan or anything like that, let's keep it to the same pan. Only thing that I want you to add to this natural juice and dripping that's already in here in this seasoning is you're going to add you a cup of beef broth, add you 1 cup of cooking wine, red wine. That's not regular red wine, that's cooking wine, sherry, right? And then add you a tablespoon of worcestershire sauce. Bring this up to a nice simmer. If you got yourself a wooden spatula, or preferably if you got yourself a little strainer where you or a sifter, you can go through here and then whip it up. Let me tell you, put this to the side. That'll be what you're going to serve directly over the top, whether you're putting a little bit of splash on your potatoes or whether you go ahead and put you a little splash directly on the meat. Easy as you. You want to make sure that you also scrape all of this stuff off the bottom. That is the good stuff. That's what's going to give you your flavor. Pretty much all you doing is you started with a base. From there, that's what really got the good stuff in there. And it's got the flavors and the seasonings that you already put in here, along with this fat. Man, let me tell you, I might be up all night other than wrapping presents eating some of this. Stay tuned, baby. This is how we doing it. Team, I had to bring you back to make sure I tell you. Make sure you take the time to make that Au Jus recipe. 3 easy ingredients, and let me tell you, that's going to level your game up big time. Other than that, on behalf of Killer Miller Q, my whole fam, Merry Christmas. Make sure you enjoy yours. And I had to bring you in one time so you can actually see one more piece and how much I'm about to enjoy it. Until the next cook.